Formed out of a series of disastrous results and a few failed tries, the Triple Crown line terrorized the rest of the NHL during their prime and set incredible records while at it. They were not necessarily a combination of the best players, but an assembly of three players that gelled so well that it took only injuries to stop them. In January of 1979, following three back-to-back losses in which the Kings only scored a goal across all three, then-manager Bob Berry knew he had to do something about his team's offensive structure. The offensive line already consisted of Hall of Famer Marcel Dionne and ace winger Dave Taylor. But the third man to perfectly complement them was the missing piece of the puzzle. Berry tried everything possible to find that missing piece to complete the trio, but nothing worked. Even Murray Wilson, a seasoned veteran with a top-notch resume, wasn't cutting it. Then, Berry made a next move that he would later describe as his best all year, stating, "As the coach, I always say my worst decision ever was assigning Charlie to the minors during training camp, and my best decision ever was recalling him to play on this line. Charlie and I played together the year before in the minors when I was a player coach, so I knew the goal-scoring skills he had." Berry was referring to an old friend he had coached in the AHL, Charlie Simmer, who wasn't really a household name, but quite the opposite of that. His lackluster display on the ice meant he never had a big role to play for any franchise before being part of the Triple Crown. Drafted by the California Seals in 1974, he shuffled between the NHL and the minor Central Hockey League, putting up numbers that were nothing to write home about. Points as low as 14 assists and 11 goals in 80 games were what Simmer could achieve in his first 3 years. But when he landed in LA with the Kings in 1977, he got a slow start playing in the AHL and was sent to the minor leagues before Berry called him back. Even though there weren't many expectations of Simmer, Bob Berry would later speak proudly in the interview about his addition. Quote, "With us, Marcel and Davey were always okay, but that third piece was always missing on that side. Then Charlie stepped into it and just owned it." Nevertheless, it wasn't easy for Charlie Simmer, who recalls how nerve-wracking it felt the first time, saying, "I had no idea what was going to happen. In fact, I was having such a tough time that it was a matter of, I'm going to go to Europe or I'm going to quit." Fortunately for Charlie and everyone, in their first game as a trio, they ended their 3-game losing streak by beating the Red Wings 7-3 on the road. 6 of those goals came from Taylor, Simmer, and Dionne, starting the legend of the Triple Crown line. And it wasn't just one lucky night for the Kings, because in the next game against Boston, they won 6-3. Simmer always had it in the back of his mind that he was just there to fill in the gap made from injured players, but Berry made it clear that he wasn't going anywhere. In a 2009 story by NHL, Dave Taylor shared Bob Berry's thoughts on Simmer being the perfect fit. "Charlie was the perfect complement to us. He's a big guy with great hands. He could finish around the net, and he had excellent hockey sense. He knew where to go on the ice and find the open spots." But just why was he so good? Well, according to Marcel Dionne, to have a successful line, you've got to get going and respond together. That's what we had. We had a lot of chemistry on and off the ice. They were never selfish with each other, and with every bit of success they had, they made sure to share the spoils. As Charlie would put it, playing with those guys, it wasn't a matter of who was going to get more goals or more points. It was about playing together and realizing very quickly the chemistry that we had. Apart from being selfless like any team sport, it's important everyone knows how to play their roles. And here is Simmer providing that insight again. As he said, "We got a lot of ice time, and it just seemed to grow and blossom for no particular reason other than we went out there as a line, a group, a unit, and we played as a unit. It wasn't a matter of setting Marcel up or setting me up. Each of us had our own little niche out there." Each player was very different from the other, which gave them unique strengths that, when harmonized, made them unstoppable. Marcel Dionne was a veteran who had a reputation for creating plays. Dave Taylor was a hard-working winger who wasn't afraid to get physical to win contests. And Charlie Simmer was a 6'3" and power forward who was always available to put the puck in the back of the net. But even with their individual roles, they were never afraid of trying new things. Whatever worked, they stuck with it. But we've been hearing that the Triple Crown line was great. But how great was it really? Well, let's take to their heydays. The 1979-80 season was the first full season the Triple Crown line played, and they didn't disappoint. The Art Ross Trophy went to Dion as he led the league in points with 137. Simmer recorded 101 points, and Dave Taylor was the only member of the gang that scored less than 100 points with the 90 he registered. With the trio, the offense of the Kings was on fire, but their defense fell short as they finished 4th worst in the league. Nevertheless, they could still celebrate a successful season because in the previous year, without the trio together, the Kings had finished 10th overall in the NHL standings and 3rd in the Norris Division. But in their first season together, they finished 12th overall and 2nd in the Norris Division. 12th is not bad, considering that the league had expanded from 17 teams to 21. Nevertheless, the 1980-81 season for the Triple Crown line can be described as the pinnacle of the trio. Each of them finished with over 100 points, and this still remains something that has never happened before in the NHL. Taylor, Dion, and Simmer had a combined total of 352 points, and each made it to the top 10 scorers ranking in the league that season. As much as they were great individually, they still saw themselves as a strong, cohesive unit not to be reckoned with. As Simmer recalled, "We weren't a group of individuals. We played as a line. We were successful as a line, and it was nice to be rewarded as a line. That's something that we were very proud of." However, like before, their defense let them down as they finished 3rd worst this time around. But that did not take away the fact that they were the 4th overall best team in league standing while almost claiming the Norris Division. Unfortunately, the Triple Crown line was broken by an injured Simmer, leaving Taylor and Dion to face defeat at the hands of the New York Rangers in the first round of the playoffs. Simmer's injury spell continued into the following season, and his numbers took a dip as he missed almost half of the season. While Dion and Taylor still maintained their scoring record of over 100 points, Simmer's points went from 105 the previous year to just 39. But that wasn't the only time that the Triple Crown line lost a key member to injury. In the 1982-83 season, Dave Taylor joined the injury bandwagon. That season, he only played 46 games, in which he managed to record 58 points. The deficiency of the Triple Crown line affected the Kings' offensive line, rendering it as unproductive as their defense. And where did that land them? They are near the bottom of the Smythe Division and nowhere near the playoffs. But things were about to get worse for the trio and for the Kings. By the start of the 1984 season, it was obvious that the Triple Crown line's glory days were over, and it was time for its members to go their separate ways. Charlie Simmer was traded to the Boston Bruins for a first-round pick, but Marcel Dion spent 3 more seasons with the Kings. In his last season, being a fraction of the player he once was, he parted ways with the Kings franchise as he was traded to New York in 1987. As for Dave Taylor, he was the only person who ended his career with the Kings, but just like his colleagues, he never managed to captivate hearts in his later years as he did in his prime. But even after retirement, their influence is still evident. Isn't that why we made this video in the first place? Anyway, Dave Taylor tried to continue with the legacy of the Triple Crown line when he was made the Kings' general manager for almost a decade. During that time, he put together an offensive line second to the Triple Crown line in scoring. It was made of Ziggy Palffy, Jason Allison, and Adam Deadmarsh. But this offensive line fell apart for the same reason the Triple Crown line did: injuries. In any case, it's hard to believe that the legendary Triple Crown line couldn't win a trophy together. Nevertheless, the line remains etched in LA Kings history and also in NHL archives as one of the best offensive lines ever seen on the ice. But are there any other great lines you would like to see next? Let us know in the comments section, and as you do, subscribe for more interesting videos like this.